done it on low price. McDonald's does it on low price. I don't think McDonald's is a restaurant, though. McDonald's is a filling station, right? You just fly through there, get it hot and fast and cheap, and you're on the go. That's basically what McDonald's is. But they've created that branded customer experience because you know if you're in San Francisco, or if you're in Nashville, or if you're in Paris, you're going to get the same consistent food and ingredients all over. So that's what you're looking for. Now what we have to do is we have to think about who are we dealing with here? Who are the people, who are the teammates in our firms? What we found, and you can tell me if this is true or not for you, what we have found is that most accountants in most firms are a little bit more introverted. I am. I mean, I at the end of the day, I'll be pretty exhausted having had a lot of social interaction and doing a lot of speaking. So I'm much more comfortable reading a book. I'm shy, and I'm just not comfortable being in front of a group. I push myself to do it. But also accountants, by and large, are in the top 4% of IQs. When you look at ACT scores of CPAs, you find very, very bright people. Introverted, bright people. That's who we're dealing with here. We found this to be the case. What do you think about that?
Yeah.
An interested introvert can be a better business developer than an interesting extrovert.
Sure. Good listener. Technical. A more technical person might be the more introvert and technical sells.
A lot of times CEOs of small businesses are not looking for the glad hander or the just that interesting extrovert. They're looking for that person that not only listens, Jim, but how do you set yourself up to listen? One of the great skills of interested introverts and business developers is asking good questions. You ever ask a client, would you give me a plant tour? Would you tell me about your business? How'd you do that? How'd you succeed at that? What happens when you do that? Your client lights up like a Christmas tree. You engage them in conversation, and they love to talk about that, don't they?
They do. It's their success. It's their story.
Now, I didn't say that a disinterested introvert. I said an interested introvert. So an interested introvert is interested in growing your career, is interested in your client, is interested in helping your client succeed, using the services that your firm has available to it. That's the way we approach this. We believe that everybody in this room, if you're an introvert, if you can develop an interest, a fascination in your client's business, those A's and B's those clients you focus on can be very successful.
Sorry.
Is there another gentleman joining us?
Yes, I'm actually on borrowed time. I'm on jury duty till I'm out till 1 o'clock. So. Sorry.
I was at an AICPA meeting in Denver yesterday, and they were talking about all the things that are coming at us in our profession. How many of you would say to me, Troy, I think that the clients that we work with over the next 5 years, their businesses are become more simple, less complex? How many of you would say it's going to become more complex? Most of us would say that, yeah. So the need for our services is going to be growing. We think about the marketing strengths that we have, the respect that you have as a CPA, the #1 most respected business advisor in the world is the CPA. because you have high integrity. All of these things, you get to have that broad experience, you take an objective approach. And yet so many of us do a great job when it comes to the billable time, but we do a lousy job when it comes to business development time. And these are the big 4 mistakes that we found that firms make in setting up a good business development program. Sarah, and you're working with your firm to do that. It's just not telling people what we expect by not setting some standard. When you walk out from behind stage to on stage at Disney World, there's 4 expectations. So if we're going to have people in our firm grow the firm, we've got to say, here's your expectation. This is what we're looking for, and we need to say that right up front. This is what we expected. There's no growth plan. There's just no focus on it whatsoever. A lot of what we're talking about today is how do you develop a better focus in what you're doing by using the 3 strategies that we talked about. The other problem that we have is just poor motivation. We don't motivate people properly. You think about in your firm how many people have earned their college degree, earned their CPA certificate, and are working with you. They're motivated intrinsically by doing that. And yet we sometimes try to motivate them by saying, well, we'll give you 10% if you bring new business in. Well, we don't give them training. We don't teach them how to do it. And some people are over their heads right away. So we just don't believe in sending brand new people out to attract new business. We believe in having a good growth plan says that I want to teach our folks how to communicate. So when you have a new person join your firm, if that person needs some skill development in communication, get them involved in Toastmasters for a couple of years so they can learn to be a numbers communicator in addition to being able to crunch the numbers. So many people have the wrong kind of training. Now, this used to be the big 5 principles, but now it's in the last 6 or 7 years, it's shrunk down to the big 4. If you're going to really grow your firm, if you'll follow these principles, you'll be very successful. Getting the right people, doing the right things. Like I said before, I don't want newer people. I don't want people that have been working with me less than 5 years to go out and attract new business. And yet I find so many partners who are uncomfortable with it themselves. They say, well, let's get all of our people involved in a networking plan and get them out there. Well, what happens? That young person drags in a prospect. 99 times out of 100, that prospect is not a good prospect for your firm. So it presents you a dilemma. And the dilemma is this. Am I going to discourage that young person from bringing that client in by turning it down? Or am I going to take the client knowing all the while it's not going to be an A or B client for me, and I'm going to give them not my best service? So that's why I want to focus those people with less than 5 years entirely on the A and B clients of our firm. I want them to learn how these A and B clients think, so when they become that manager, that senior manager, then we can ask them to step outside. But we don't send brand new people into the marketplace to create business. That's the role of the owner. We found that having the right recognition, just people got recognized when they passed the CPA exam. That intrinsic motivation is much more powerful than a pay plan. If you're going to offer a pay plan, offer different pay plans for different people. You can allow people with less than 5 years of experience, if they bring additional business from an existing client, that should be compensated for, because that's what they have abilities to do and do it well. And then, of course, the right kind of training. Anybody here read Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers? Anybody?
I read the Cliff Notes.
Cliff Notes? Do you remember the 10,000-hour rule?
Yeah, it's time on task.
So what's that all about? What did the 10,000-hour rule?
If you do something 10,000 hours, you'll become an expert at it.
Yeah, he studied in this book. It's a wonderful read. I would really encourage you to get it. It's fun. He talks about hockey players and baseball players and musicians. He talks about the Beatles and Bill Gates and
even their birthday for the hockey players.
yeah, it's really a very interesting read. But what he found is if you invest 10,000 hours in something, you can become an expert. As I was reading the book, I was thinking, well, how does this apply to what I do? What I found was, when does an accountant have about 10,000 billable hours? 7, 8, 9 years in practice? You can really become a good auditor. Or Jim, in your firm, you can become a pretty good defense lawyer. You can become really good at a technical skill. The question I have for you is, at that point in time, how much have we invested in learning how to be good business developers, good client servers? What's good communicators? And in many cases, what we've done is we stunted our growth by focusing on our technical skill and not focusing on our client service and our business development ability. So we want to give you a formula. And I know that looks like a bunch of dead people, but that's not right. That's we're going to have to change that photograph. That's Navy SEALs down at Coronado getting wet and sandy, doing their training. If you've read any books about the Navy SEALs, you know the kind of training they go through. And so sometimes we have to go through really important training, remedial training. And we've got to look at, are we going to invest 10,000 hours in learning how to be good client service and business developers? Well, it needs to be, number one, consistent. If we're going to create that consistent client experience, our training should be consistent after the 4 standards, the 5 standards, whatever standards it is that you might set for your firm. Then they need to be progressive. That means that they need to get harder all along the way. It needs to be focused training, and it needs to be measurable. In other words, we need to be able to see what is the measurement of that training. We're going to actually let you experience some of that today. We're going to take you through a little training, and you're going to see it's very focused. It's very consistent. It's going to get a little harder each time we do it. So the first thing I want to ask you to do is just turn to the person sitting next to you and answer this question. What do you do? How many times a month will you hear that? Will somebody ask you, what do you do? How many times a month do you hear that? Jim?
Not that often.
Not that often?
They sort of know why they're there and what you do. They don't want to know what else you do.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Do you get that in your neighborhood or when you're out?
At parties, yeah, you always get
Parties?
questions. Yeah.
Okay. How many times do you get asked that question? What do you do?
I think a lot.
How many times a month would you say? Just, oh, really? That many? Wow. Daniel?
In every awkward social encounter. Because, you know, the first thing you think of when you're trying to, let's make a conversation. Hi, so what do you do when you're not playing golf? What do you do when you're not, yeah. What is your hobby? Those are the conversation makers, right?
You see, one of the things that we want you to be able to do is to make a good, lasting first impression. And how you respond to that question can set the stage for a good impression or a not so good impression. An interesting first impression can be developed. And if you, once a week, twice a week, you get to ask that question, think about all the people in your firm. Would they get asked the same question? Yeah. So if you've got 25 people in your firm and they're getting asked that question 4 times a month, that means, 4 times a month is 48 times a year, 50 times a year, 1,250 opportunities for a good first impression. So now I want you to just turn to the person next to you and pretend you get asked this question. What do you do? And I just want you to answer it just like you normally do. So the two of you, the two of you across the table, 2 and 2. We have 10.
We're going to talk to Adelaide.
2 right there.
You two get started so that I'm observing.
All right.
So what do you do?